lists of objects. Sometimes like that's in a way like a form of like meditation, or like being aware of like my own to-do list or my own like surroundings. And then I go through those lists and like go and find the things in the world and I make drawings of them. Sometimes they're from they're sourced from like just like looking up on Google what that item looks like. Sometimes it's like actually going out and finding that, which might end up becoming like an interactive thing, like with interacting with other people. And then I create the drawing on paper and I digitize them and I make them into digital assets that actually then get distributed on stock websites as clip art. So you can actually download that and put it in a PowerPoint presentation, or I've been working on kind of like going back and finding them where some of them end up. They end up in a lot of like kind of clickbaity blog type things that have like budgets for images, but not very high budgets. Sometimes I've seen like some like end up like in a textbook or something like that every now and then in print. And one of the ideas that's I'm interested in is like the drawing being a piece of clip art. What makes it, what defines it as being clip art is that like it kind of exists before the idea or purpose that it's going to be used for is. So it's kind of this vessel that's waiting for someone to use it to communicate their own meaning that they have for it. And then since now that I've been working on this collection for several years and I have a lot to tap into, I've been using it to put together my own work in animation and these larger pieces. And this particular piece is partially based on the medieval tapestry that's of like a unicorn. That's called The Unicorn in Captivity. And in that piece there's a pomegranate tree, and then there's this unicorn that has been captured and is in a little enclosure in it. But the enclosure is something that couldn't actually contain a unicorn if it wanted to leave. So there's some kind of question of why is the unicorn choosing to be in this kind of captive space. And it was something that was created long enough ago that there isn't someone around to account for it or necessarily explain it, other than academics making theories about it. So I kind of like the quantum aspect of that it could be multiple things at once. And in this piece, the unicorn is kind of in this multiple quantum state of being there and not being there. And I made this garden of all of these other things, some things that occur in the natural environment, some things that occur in our regular lives. And in addition to the tapestry, the other kind of source for this was a space in my backyard that was my escape place. And this particular chair is my landlord's chair that I would go sit in. And I kind of actually composed a lot of this piece in that space. And so there was this combination of things that might bring on some anxiety or might bring on stress in their own. So it was kind of this way of meditation through working through those things and those ideas. And when I first showed this piece, it was with a chair and with a garden, so you could be in the space as well and use it as kind of a source of meditation to work through what was popping into your head when you saw the different things. I'll turn that to questions.
The brick constructions that are there, can you tell me a little bit more about those?
Those were partially kind of derived from the original idea of the fence that's in the original tapestry, but they're not something that can actually contain something. And then the other one is a well, which is a wishing well. So it's this thing that could be a source of danger that you could fall down in. It could be a source of water. It could be something that there no longer provides water, or it can be this idea that has a wish or hope to it. So it's a signifier that you would need more information to know what it means, or you'd have to put in some information of your own associations with it. Also with all the garden objects, bricks or something you see in the garden. So that's how because like what you said, it's sort of like what's like the minimal amount of information to know that it's a unicorn, I guess. I also, like in looking at the tapestry, was really drawn to those particular things, and I desired to draw them. The way that the tail, like the exact shape of the tail, and those hooves, and I just like I really like love the gesture of the hooves, and I just wanted to work with that. The tail as well, a thing that I really got into with it is, one thing I didn't talk about when I was talking about the clip art is I do a lot of these things in isometric perspective, which is a perspective that's used in architectural drawings. And you'll also see it used a lot in older video games or like newer video games that use like cell phones or things that don't use a lot of memory, because it allows images to occupy this. They are all in the same perspective, so it allows images to create a false sense of 3D without having to have the amount of data to actually show something in 3D. And it allows things that were drawn in different spaces to come into the same space together and fit, because they're in a uniform perspective. And I had a lot of fun playing with making that tail, the exact curves of that tail into that perspective, so that it would feel like it belonged with the other parts of the drawing. Yeah, I don't have more on why I chose those parts.
Yeah, that's great.
We have time for one more question.
Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to know a little bit more about, you said that you upload what you draw on a clip art website, or?
Yeah,
So you're
like
encouraging
getting
people-
images basically.
So you're encouraging people to be able to use them for what they want to use them for, is that?
I don't go out and directly encourage people, but it just kind of goes into the world. So
Right.
people who I don't know or possibly would want to, like I don't have control over what it's used for. It could be used for something that I wouldn't necessarily
Right.
approve of. But I release it from sort of my kind of care and control and let it live its own life.
Yeah, I mean, is that a part of your practice in general? I mean, most people hang on to what they do and copyright, and I mean, that's a very unusual thing to allow people to use your artwork.
Yeah, it is still all tied up with copyright though, because then it's like Getty, for example, managing the copyright.
Okay.
It's not just.
Okay.
I would like to maybe perhaps at some point do a library that is for like free distribution with licenses that are free licenses, but then that's actually where I would maybe want to have a little bit more control over like what they're being used for. And I haven't put the library together in such a way